Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Great to have you all here. Thanks for coming out to help us celebrate Rusty's retirement and roast this guy to a crisp. Who's ready for that? We're calling for it, Coach. So the plan for this evening is I've got just some backgrounds and context to share with you, and I'll have my own roast and toast, and then we've got a long line of folks that have been chomping at the bit to roast this guy. But first I'd like to thank a few folks for pulling this all together. And I want to start with Sue Smith and her beautiful daughters, Kim and Allie. Trust me, without their help, this doesn't get done. So great job. Also like to thank their friends Denise, Lori, and Kathy for coming out and volunteering to help serve and decorate and the whole deal. So thank you very much. Also like to thank Scott Reeder for helping to secure this facility. Who knew how difficult it can be to find a place that seats 150 people? And so Scott came through. Really do appreciate it, Scotty. And then finally, I'd like to thank the director of our foundation, Mr. Tim Foster, as well as our athletic director, Mr. Brent Davis, who unfortunately couldn't be here. He's at the statewide athletic directors conference in Tahoe, but he wanted me to send along his very best to all of you. I want to thank Tim and Brent for picking up the bill for this entire night. Thank you, guys. So I've got 13 or 14 pages of notes here that Rusty has prepared himself. Not true? You didn't lose them? No, we'll get to that losing part. Thank you. We'll get to that part. So I'd like to just give you a little context on just what the game of basketball has meant to this guy. He played at Aviation High School down in Redondo Beach from 68 to 72. He went to that a long time ago. Went on to play for the El Camino Junior College Warriors in Torrance from 72 to 74. Went on to Montana State, the Bobcats, from 74 to 76. And then he started a 6-year journey across Germany. And I won't try to pronounce these names, or we're going to end up with some pieces of amigos flying out at you, and we don't want to do that. But suffice it to say, he made a very good pro. Along the way, he picked up 3 different all-conference player awards. He averaged 24 points a game at El Camino. He was also selected All-Big Sky once he got to Montana State. In terms of his coaching career, he started in 1983 as a graduate assistant at Cal State Northridge. They hired him as a full-time assistant in '86. We got some matadors in the house. We got one right here, too. In 1990, he moved on to Eastern Washington, where he spent 5 years in Cheney. Came back down in 1995 and spent 6 years at the University of Riverside. And then in 2001, he interviewed and was awarded the position of head basketball coach at the College of the Sequoias, where he has now been for 18 years. In that time, Rusty has been to the state Final Four or Final 8 on 4 different occasions: 2004, 2008, 2016, and then his swan song 2019. How about that? 62 of his student athletes have transferred on to play at the 4-year level, and his very last win, a playoff road win of all things, at San Joaquin Delta, gave him 352 career wins, which pushed him, it broke a tie and pushed him 1 ahead of the great Paulie Wilhelmsen as the all-time win leader at the College of the Sequoias. How about that? And now the fun begins. That's enough good stuff about the guy. Let's get into roasting this guy. I met Rusty 17 years ago. He was just completing his first year as the head coach. I just sold a business in Southern California, was living up here and commuting down to Southern California once or twice a week, and just started playing pickup ball with Rusty. Coach Ed Maddock from Fresno City College now was one of our assistants, and several of our friends from the dairy industry, Neil Swart and Dave Howell, one of our geography instructors there at the college. Big group of us. We'd play at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. And at some point, Rusty and I became friends, and he encouraged me to go after the athletic director job at the College of the Sequoias. And having just sold my business and being recently unemployed, I took him up on that offer, and I was lucky enough to get that job. And I've spent 17 years at the college, and it's just a wonderful place to work. And Rusty and I, in addition to being great colleagues, have been great friends for 17 years. So it's funny because I've talked to him for 15 years about how I can't wait to roast him. Really, I mean, I've said it countless times. I can't wait for you to retire. Well, that's not true. I can wait for you to retire, but I can't wait to roast you. And yet, I don't know if I'm getting soft in my old age, or if it's this final 8 run in his last year. I just kind of, most of those feelings have dissipated. And so most of what I have tonight is nice things to say about him. Because I'm sure, I'm looking at the list here, there's a lot of guys that are gonna roast this guy to a crisp. I don't need to start it. But, you know, Rusty has a penchant for losing stuff. We heard it earlier. Glasses, keys, wallet, cell phone are the 4 main culprits. But it can be a stack of ungraded papers, student papers. It can be a backpack. It can be his little brown lunchie. All sorts of things. People wonder why Rusty only works half day. It's because he spends the rest of the time retracing his steps trying to find the crap he lost. I'm not kidding. When I was the athletic director, it was not uncommon to find his stuff all over the place. I found his phone on 2 different occasions in the flower bed outside of our office, just sitting there. On another occasion, I pulled open a seldom used storage closet, and there are his glasses that he's been looking for like 18 months. We had to replace a whole ring of keys, and he spent a couple $100 himself to replace his BMW key because he couldn't find his keys anywhere. But like Sue said, things turn up. This particular key ring turned up as soon as the weather turned and they started using the family spa at home. They peeled off the lid, and there's $500 worth of keys sitting there. That's my guy, Rusty. He also has a unique memory. And this is actually half compliment, half roast, because you can talk about some kid from the 1980s, some high school, Taft High School in LA, 1988. Oh, I remember that kid. He'll name his parents' name, a girlfriend. A key decision maker on that recruit was such and such. Right? And yet, walk across campus with him, bump into a colleague that he's been working with for 15 years. They'll talk to him for 5 minutes, and as soon as they leave, now who was that again? What's with that? You know, there's people that you know, and they're just great friends. Basically, you say, you know, that guy, he'll do anything in the world for you. So Rusty, he's not that guy. He's actually maybe even the inverse of that. Like if you're Rusty's friend, you better be prepared to do anything for him. And I have a couple just simple examples of that, and one involves my truck. So for the first 8-10 years I knew Rusty, he had his own truck. And so if he wanted to move a refrigerator from one apartment to another, or if he wanted to move couches from his house to a rental house, he could just do it. And somewhere along the line, he figured out, hey, Calvin has a truck, and he's pretty generous with his stuff. It's kind of Rusty's version of why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? So he upgrades to these fancy SUVs, and then he just comes and asks me anytime he needs to move crap. And normally it's not a big deal. I'm not whining. Normally he just comes and switches keys while I'm at work, and I never really even know. He parks his car and comes back, and it's fine. But here, a few years back, he says, hey, can I borrow your truck this Saturday? I said, sure. Are you moving some couches or something? He said, yeah, I'm moving some couches. Great. So that Saturday morning, he shows up, and Sue is with him. That's unusual. Normally, he shows up for that kind of stuff with either one of his assistant coaches or a couple of players for moving stuff. And so I made a thing about it. I said, oh, he's bringing in the big guns today. And she says, well, we're going down to San Diego to help the girls move. So I looked at Rusty, and I said, oh, okay, so you're going to put 600 miles on my old truck so you can take two couches a half a mile apart from one apartment to the other? That's what you're doing? And he looks at me just deadpan. Well, yeah, that's what we talked about, right? Yeah, I guess that's what we talked about. So I said, take it this time, but next time you want to go to San Diego, let me know and I'll give you 25 bucks to rent a truck at Home Depot when you get down there. Save the 600 miles on my truck. The other example I have of kind of just being prepared to do anything for Rusty involves a recruit. It involves a recruit, and this goes back to 2004, our first Final Four year together, and I'm sure that the statute of limitations on recruiting violations has passed by now. Nobody's filming this, right? I don't want to get any calls from the commissioner. So we're down there the night before we play Compton, and we're in the hotel restaurant, and we had been recruiting a kid, a bounce back from a Division I school, and he was from Southern California, and he and his parents decided to come watch our team play. And the kid wasn't there the night before, but the parents saw us eating in the restaurant, and so they come to our table, and it was Rusty and I and a couple of coaches, and it was my turn to buy, so they were laying it on me pretty good. And the couple sit down, and we're just being nice. I mean, it's the night before a game. We're having water, tea, and my Pepsi, and of course, right? And just being nice, we say, hey, can we get you a drink? And this lady's face lit up like a Christmas tree. She said, why, sure. She ordered some blue drink. They were bigger than her head, with a big chunk of fruit and an umbrella and the whole thing. It just looked expensive. And I didn't want to be that guy that was like looking through the cocktail menu, thinking, what did I just get myself into? And the thing is, she sucked it down in like under a minute. And ordered a second one without asking. The whole time, he's looking at me. He's got that funny look on his face because he knows I'm buying, and he kind of winks at me. He's having a good time with it. And by this time, I'm eating like crazy because all I want to do is finish the dinner and close the checkout. But before I could do that, she sucked down 4 of those big drinks. Come to find out they're $18 a piece. So with a tip, it was close to $100 on and he just laughed the whole time, just laughed. And we got the kid. I'm not sure that he was worth $72 plus a tip, but at least we got the kid, right? I'm going to get around to toasting Rusty in just a moment here, but first, I really need to toast Sue, because Rusty's got a lot of good characteristics, and I'm hoping at some point tonight somebody says something nice about him. But he also has some holes in his game, and luckily for all of us, players, coaches, College of Sequoias, this town, luckily Sue fills in all of those holes. She has been fabulous for almost 2 decades. When you talk about the camps, the fundraisers, everything she does behind the scene, Sue is a stud and deserves the biggest trophy we could find. She's fabulous. So my first toast is to Sue Smith. That does not mean that she's above a roast as well. Today, the local referees association called me at home. They wanted to confirm that in addition to Rusty retiring, Sue was retiring as fan. They had a little game film of her. I only caught a piece of it, but it was something to the effect of, "You're missing a good game, Stripes! Stripes, hand check!" When I confirmed to them that, yes, in fact, she was retiring too, they offered to cover the entire cost of this celebration. So we saved Foster and Davis some money. Seriously, Rusty, we've had 17 super good years together. You've had 18. You're the all-time wins leader in the College of the Sequoias. When I was introduced as the athletic director, actually I sat at this same podium in this same room 2 days after I was given the job. Hadn't even seen my office yet, but Coach Kelly, who we lost this week, legendary football coach Roger Kelly, services will be June 29th here in town if you're interested. Roger asked me 2 days after I was given the job to come and say a few words at his Friends of Football dinner. And again, I didn't know where my office was, so I doubt I said anything terribly insightful that night, but I remember one thing I said, because somebody asked me about wins, losses, being competitive, and what it meant to me, and I said, well, wins and losses are important. Being competitive is very important because it's the honey, it's what attracts future giants to the College of the Sequoias. It gives us the opportunity to mentor them, give them a degree, push them out into the world, and turn them into productive citizens. So yes, being competitive is very, very important. But it's second, and it's a distant second, it's second to running a program that we can all be proud of. Where you meet the coaches, the assistant coaches, the student athletes, and you know they're running a solid program. Rusty, the program that you've run for 18 years now has checked every single box that an athletic director, senior administrator, boosters, fans could expect, big time. And I, for one, am sad to see you go. You've meant so much to the College of the Sequoias. I hope you're not a stranger. You've got a ton of great friends in this room, and we're all going to miss you very much. To Rusty Smith. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our first roaster, a longtime friend and competitor of Rusty's from West Hills College, Coalinga, Coach Mark Arce.
I can't toast without a beer. Look at all the people who are going to give you shit tonight. It's awesome. It's awesome. So a couple things jumped off right off the page when I got the invite from Sue. Number one, it's a roast. So that's a game changer right there. Okay. Second, said, please no children. Okay, I'm like, wow, this is gonna get crazy. So immediately I'm talking to myself, I'm like, man, I'm gonna go pound some beers and celebrate my good friend Rusty's career. So I shoot off an email to Sue. I said, I want to be first, because I didn't want to be hammered when I got up here. And she emailed me back and she said, absolutely, and don't hold back. So, hey, Sue's given the whole pass out. Okay, so there's going to be some toasting, but bro, there's going to be a whole lot of roasting, I feel like, going on tonight. Okay. Some of you might not know, Russ is drinking water right now, but there was a time in his life where he could throw down some beers. I mean, throw down some beers. He had an amazing capacity. He could drink all night, and I don't think I ever saw him drunk. Never. So I used to kid that he had a hollow leg. It all went down in there, and I found out a couple of years ago I was right. Because have you seen him walk lately? The damn thing finally filled up. He had to go to the water. So I too have to toast Sue. Because we call her the secret weapon, okay? Nobody chews ass on the ref like Sue does. Not one bit. He didn't have to do anything. He just stood around, and it was like on cue. Bam! So my good friend Charlie Thomas was my assistant, and I couldn't help but recall a great game in the old gym, that freaking dungeon. Packed house, typical COS, West Hills, you know, brutal game. And it was before Rusty stole Charlie from me and brought him over here as an assistant. And I really never figured that out, Charlie, because you're living in Coalinga, California's best kept secret, the gateway to the Central Coast, and you come over here to this shithole. You're not much of a big deal in the Elks. They won't even turn the goddamn lights on for you. Hey, now they turn the lights out for me in the Elks Club. So here we go. This game is going down the wire. And we get a call. And I'm like, yes. On cue, Rusty gives the big exasperation. And Sue just jumps right in. And just starts ripping the guy. And out of nowhere, I hear, "What about the point of emphasis this year?" I'm like, what? I look at Charlie and I go, "She played the point of emphasis card." And he goes, "I know, we're in trouble now. We didn't get a call the rest of the night. Not one." So I loved your article. That was a big time article about your retirement. It was really long though. I took 2 naps to get through the But the first line, the giant, got it right here. The giant of COS basketball coaches retired. Kind of paraphrased it. But immediately I recalled a story from when I was at Utah State University. I was assistant coach there. My head coach, his name's Stu Morrill. He was from University of Montana. When Rusty played, he was assistant. He was assistant to Mike Montgomery, right? And so at the Final Four, every Final Four, they would tell a story, and the main guy in the story was Rusty Smith, okay? And it was about the greatest fight they ever saw on a basketball court. And they said, "You started it." So, I mean, you got Judd Heathcote, all these guys telling this story, and they made him seem like this giant, red-headed, mythical beast. Okay? So somebody pissed him off and he attacked the whole team apparently. Sellout crowd, 10,000 people. Took him forever to get him corralled. Finally, when the police are hauling him off, okay, he's proudly walking off the court like this. I mean, a lot of you guys know him as a gentle giant, the big lovable redhead, but at one time he was a real badass, let me tell you. And wild. Oh my God, was he wild. All right, 325 wins. That's amazing. Best in school history. That's what good assistants and great players can do for you. Okay? Right? So, anyway, what's wrong with this thing here?
You're going too long. That's the signal that you're going too long.
Christ almighty, for the 5 minutes. All right.
Yeah, get away from the speaker.
Oh, okay, good. Over here. my list. Hey, an example of that, and this is the truth. Russ has been a great mentor for young assistant coaches. Great example of that is Mitch and Ed winning state titles. A round of applause for those guys. Two other head coaches, community college. No pressure, Chris. I don't know where you are, but you better win a state title. Okay. 28-3, best single season in school history, and I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that one of those losses was against West Hill Scholarship. Okay? So, I got to tell you, that was my first win as a head coach against Rusty. And Javance got out of the van in the parking lot, and we had two guys covering him. As soon as he stepped off the van, okay, one of the best players I ever coached against. Okay, but when Rusty, I was like 0-5, and Rusty, while he's kicking the crap out of me, God, what a great sport he was. So we got all these great little traditions where we would do coffee before the game, which is very unusual. You know, most coaches are real paranoid about that stuff. And after every game, he'd have the traditional handshake, but ours was like a handshake, warm embrace, and he would always say something comforting to me after he just beat me. Okay? So, to his credit, after this, my first win against him, come up, he shakes my hand, just like always. He pulls me in tight, and he says, "Fuck you, Ars." So hey, Brett, my kids, Brett, Troy, and Megan, all said congrats. My two boys played for me. My daughter was my administrative assistant coach, and they made sure to have me tell you that they have a winning record against you. So for a while, you're a whipping post for the Arce family. So we've been friends for 30 years, and you know, Charlie can tell you, it was so different back then. Coach Branko, you know, football, same thing. It was just, nobody was making any money. Nobody's paranoid. Everybody's trying to help each other out. We'd go on the road recruiting, and they would give me per diem, and all the assistant coaches would pool up and stay in hotels together. So our money would stretch farther, and we could drink more beer at night after the games and stuff. But one of the things back then was live scouting, and Rusty would come up to Bakersfield and scout Cal State Bakersfield, and when he did, he would always stay at our house. And one of my favorite pictures is Rusty sleeping in Brett's race car bed with his feet hanging out. Okay. So, last story here. No, I got a couple more. All right, here we go, sorry. The set is going to 10. All right, so Rusty used to kid that he was so broke when he was a GA at Northridge that he couldn't pay attention. Okay? Well, he's not broke anymore, but you highlighted very well how he can't pay attention, right? So, did you know that he used to drive a charter bus to make extra money, like to Vegas and stuff? Okay? And all of us that know that what a crappy driver he is, how scary that is. So I was with Shannon Rosenberg, some of you guys might know, that played for Rusty at Northridge. I was with him last weekend. My son was graduating from his college up there where he's coaching, and he told a great story about Rusty, asked me to share it tonight, about Rusty driving the van with the players at the Weber State trip and doing donuts in the parking lot in the van. Okay. So obviously, the standards for driving a bus back in those days were not so great. So, last one. So, he's in Northridge, I'm at Cal State Bakersfield. Northridge is transitioning to Division I. And in that era, I happened to come from Oklahoma, so I had a lot of contacts, and I was getting a lot of players at Bakersfield. So he asked if he could go on a recruiting trip with me, and we were obviously recruiting different players. So I was Division II, he was Division I, and meet all my contacts. And so, hey, it was great. We formulated a plan, okay? And it was like one of the most epic journeys I've ever been on. We talk about a test of friendship, okay? So, get this. I retraced that this week on Google Maps, okay? Every place we went. That's what happens when you retire. I retired first. Okay, that's what happens when you retire. You have a lot of extra time on your hands to do, you know, stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense. So anyway, 3,000 miles we traveled in 5 days. We flew into Oklahoma City. We had every junior college in Oklahoma. We drove to Nacogdoches, Texas, which is on the eastern border of Texas. We drove back through Oklahoma. We went to Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which is on the eastern side of Missouri, back through Springfield, back to Oklahoma City, okay? So if they made a movie of that trip, it'd be like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Dumb and Dumber, and the Blues Brothers, okay? And I swear to God, we went to that country bar in Blues Brothers with the cage and all on that trip, okay? But it went really good. We stayed friends. I was a little concerned when he tried to sleep naked the first night in the hotel room. Boundaries, okay? So the deal was, Rusty goes, hey, I'll get all the hotel rooms. You get the rent-a-car and pay for the gas. I'm like, cool. So I get in first. I pick him up at the airport. I'm there at the curb. I pull up, and he's standing there looking. And I'm there in a Geo Metro. They don't even make those names. 50 miles to the gallon. It's barely bigger than this podium right here, okay? And imagine he gets in the car and his feet are like his knees are under his chin, and he looks over at me and goes, "You gotta be fucking kidding me." He chewed my ass for 3,000 miles an hour. I don't know why he was so pissed off. He never had to drive. He couldn't get behind the steering wheel, but it don't matter. So, here's my toast. To my great friend, most successful coach in a great program, historically great program, which makes it even a bigger deal. Future Hall of Famer. Nobody can ever fill your shoes because you got really big fucking feet.
Thank you, Mark. That was great. So I was kind of saving my wet blanket speech until the student athletes got up here. Just a reminder, it's PG-13. If we're going to go R, let's wait until afterwards. We'll pile on the R stuff later on. So we don't want to let this slide too far. But thank you, Mark. I was at that game. And I blame that loss at Coalinga, not on Javance, not on the fact that Teddy Fletcher didn't play. I blame that loss on Jason Ferroni. Seldom used reserve, but got in the game when we were up 35 at our place, right? And catches the ball with about 6 seconds left. He's holding the ball at half court. He should have just thrown it in the air, but no. Yeah, so he looks at the rim, and their big 7-footer, Mark, what was his name?
Wow, the big Kurt make it hurt.
Yeah, the guy was about as big as Shaq. And he saw Jason look at him, and he's way, they're half court away. He saw Jason saw him. Jason's only 6'2", but this kid's 7 foot. The guy steps out, like into the lane, like, you want it? Come get it. Jason was a high jumper. And he takes 2 dribbles and just flies over this guy and crushes it, right? And our whole football team comes piling out of the bleachers and just engulfs Ferroni, right? And for the next 3 weeks, I'm sure the Falcons were just laying in wait for us. That was the craziest game I've ever been a part of. You guys had guys in cowboy hats and boots running down the sideline. You had 3 guys guarding Javance, and then the 4th guy on the sideline was completing the trap, right? Only in Coalinga. Yeah, I just had to clarify that. Hey, our next speaker has been a longtime coach himself at the College of the Sequoias, and between Coach Smith, Coach Davis, Coach Allen, and I, we've exchanged a lot of group text messages, a lot of congratulations and camaraderie, especially after one of our teams beats the Fresno City College Rams. What do we like to eat, Coach, on those nights?
We like ram stew.
We do like ram stew, don't we? Come on up, Coach. Coach Jody Allen. Uh-oh, here comes bearing gifts.
Don't stand in front of the speaker.
No, I'm gonna move around. First of all, thanks for inviting me. I was really worried. So, by the way, just so you know, Dallas, this is the new guy. We should probably welcome him too. So, I've been at COS now 26 years as a head guy and another 3 as an assistant, so almost 30. And I've only been on 2 hiring committees in all that time. One was Rusty Smith and the other was you. No pressure. So, it's so good to see these young stallions here, huh? Rusty and I had a unique friendship and relationship, and I think it started one night. We had a big game, and I don't even know who was AD or what. I said, hey, we need to like get some shirts. And I don't know if this just never happens or what. Was it that game too? I don't even know if it was a Fresno City game. It was a big deal. And so, I mean, I offered to buy half the shirts, and so we bought half the shirts. We got in town. I had to tell Sylvia to actually put it on. You were sitting there, you didn't have the shirt on, you didn't know what to do. And so we do this orange out thing, and I had all the players there. And our guys went crazy. And we had so much fun that night. The refs let stuff go on that they would never let go on today. My baseball guys are, and this is in the old gym, my baseball guys are underneath the hoop while the other team's shooting free throws, just doing crazy stuff. So we had a lot of fun. And then Rusty tried to bring his guys out to the baseball game later. They didn't know what to do. I had no clue. I do believe I'm probably his shortest friend. What's that movie, Twins? Yeah, we've had that said of us a couple times. So in continuing with my support of the basketball program, and just because he's such an icon when it comes to coaching, I'm at a fundraiser of his, and I buy Coach for the Day. I buy Coach for the Day because I want to see the master at work. And sure enough, it's Fresno City game, and he tells me, okay, we wear this and this. He tells me what to wear. So we look the same, and I'm sitting on, he wants me to sit next to him, but he doesn't really, I think I'm just bugging him, but he wanted me to feel like, hey, thank you, right? So I'm amazed. I'm having a great time. I'm like, man, I feel, and one thing I discovered that night, basketball's a lot faster than baseball. I'm like, where's the 7th inning stretch? Whoa. I have time to make decisions. Like, okay, well, this pitcher's starting to go bad. All right, I got a couple innings left. Rusty's like, you're out. And he pulls out a card, and he's very colorful with his language at times. And one of the things I respect about him, and this sounds weird, I'm not a big language guy. I try not to cuss a whole lot. And what's amazing is that Rusty just didn't care. Like a lot of people look at you like, oh, I'm sorry about my language. Rusty, he was always himself, and I appreciate that about you. Getting back to the game. So I go in the locker room right beforehand, just hear the chalk talk. And these young guys, that you remember the chalk talks, right? And I mean, he does it a big time. And I mean, it's like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to go here, we're going to do that, and number this, you got to get him, you got to get, and I mean, he sounded like he knew what he was doing. I was impressed. I was impressed, really impressed. And then, all the guys are pumped and they go out to do the layup thing or warm up, right? And I'm like, wow, that was awesome. He goes, you watch the first 5 minutes, they won't remember a damn thing. Remember that? I'm sitting next to when the game starts, it's exactly what he says. Not one guy knew what he was doing. They're running all over, and he just looks at me like, okay. So we've enjoyed several things. There's a theme that I think you're probably going to get tonight, and it has to do with losing things. I don't know if anybody's going to tell the cell phone story with the car. All right, so Rusty's gone for the weekend. He comes back. And I don't know if he has his phone yet, but he told me it's a long weekend. And basically, he says, yeah, I lost my cell phone. And my daughter, I said goodbye to her. And I tried to call and see if I left it in her car. The cell phone's on outside of the car. It's lit up. And she's driving down the freeway. And I'm like, how do you leave your cell phone outside the car by the windshield wipers and take off and go down the freeway? And it's unbelievable. So in keeping with this, I have one other joy. As a baseball coach, many people ask you for a hat. Can I have a hat? I can't tell you how many hats I've given out. And many times I never see that person in a hat. And if you know Rusty, he wears hats. He was always a joy to give a hat to because he wore it. Matter of fact, he wore it too long. And many times, he obviously can't keep track of his hats. Because I would give him a new one, and there would be the old one, and it's bad. I mean, it's the worst hat in the country. So I tried to teach him, hey, you know, you can wash those things. He's like, oh, you can? Yeah. If you put them in the dishwasher, you know, you at least get some of the grime. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. So I started trying to give him, you know, at least one, if not two. And, you know, of course, whenever he sees you with a hat in your hand going to, hey, yo, solid. Is there any more? Thank you. Hey, yo, solid. The youth of America are waiting. These are all great terms that he uses. So with this in mind, with him retiring, I had to give him a parting gift, and it's one that is near and dear to me because of his affection for baseball hats. And yet I'm so worried that in retirement he's going to lose these. And so I've decided, you want to stand up? We got to give one last look at the twins. I decided to present him with a lifetime supply of hats. So we have his and her cold weather hats. I know you don't look good in orange. One time, baby. But we have, you know, we have the camo. This is my personal favorite. I think of the sunscreen look. You know? There's an S on everything because I want you to remember where you came from. And the only other thing is, you notice it's under lock and key. Okay, so I have one key. Look over your shoulder.
Thank you, Coach. Our next speaker is one of Rusty's first assistants here at COS. The first was Ed Maddock, who lasted a year before moving on, and the second stayed a couple of years before he also moved on to City College of San Diego, where he's gone to 2 finals and 3 years ago was a state champion. Please welcome Mitch Charlins. Of course he's sweating. Look how big he is.
I want to remind everyone here that this is a roast of Rusty Smith, not Mitch Charlins. Patriot fans, the speaker right before me, if he didn't look familiar, it's because when I picked you up every day and took you to class, that was his health class. He's right behind you. Coach Allen, he was your health instructor. Say hello. You want to introduce yourself, Javance? I'm thrilled that Javance is here. We were all worried because he never made a practice, a game, or a class without my picking him up and taking him there. And so somehow he got here tonight, so we're all thrilled that you're here, Javance. I want to acknowledge my college coach when I played at San Francisco State University, Charlie Thomas in the back. I don't know why I'm emotional. I'm not retiring. I probably should be. I'm emotional for a couple of reasons. One is I see my college coach back there, and then Mark Arce was a mentor to me also because when I was an assistant for Rusty for 2 years, Coach Arce treated me like I knew what I was doing and would talk to me. He didn't talk down to me like so many head coaches do. And you serve as a mentor also, Coach Arce. Thank you. Coach Thomas, you're a stud, and I love playing for you. I'm emotional because I see gentlemen like that in the back of the room, and then I see what Sue left. That's great. Sue, we'll talk later. We'll talk about it on the weekend, Sue. I see those guys back there, and then I see what I consider family. Coach Smith took me in as I thought I knew what I was doing, and then quickly when you become a head coach yourself, you realize how little you actually did and how little value you actually brought as an assistant. And so I think I called Rusty when I first got my job and was pissed off at my assistants. And I realized how much there is to do and how much he did. And I realized that when I worked for Rusty, I was just a big cheerleader in a polo. And he did everything else. He taught me everything I know about how to be a head coach. And the guys that I was able to coach here, you guys were such studs. And I want you to know that your legend doesn't just live on in the COS community, because when I became a head coach, and now I've been a head coach for 15 years at San Diego City College, I use stories of you guys with those teams. So your legend lives on and on and on, and not just in Visalia and the College of Sequoias community, but throughout. Oh, Sue, you're back. Did you wash your hands? Sorry. Oh. Sue, thank you for letting me eat dinner at your house almost every night for 2 years. And thank you for letting me eat the family's leftovers. And girls, thank you for being amazing, amazing daughters to these two, to Rusty. You guys helped in every way. You were huge supporters of his. It was awesome. You guys are always in the office. You guys helped with everything. You were the biggest fans. I love you guys like family. I'm not going to talk too much longer, I promise. I just want to say one other thing about what Rusty's meant to me and then my family and then my life. I didn't know anything. Was truly the greenest coach you could be, and then Rusty brought me in, and not only brought me in, but then allowed me to do a lot. Probably gave me too much responsibility, but he was grooming me to be a head coach. And I'll never forget when it came time for me to interview at San Diego City College 15 years ago. He told me, he said, "Now tell them that you did everything when you were here." And I started laughing, and he said, "No, I'm serious. Tell them I was drunk in a corner, and you ran the show." So I did. I I fooled them into giving me a job 15 years ago. Because I told them that I was the reason we were so damn good. I understand that you and Sue Jill have bought a retirement home in Carlsbad, which is in San Diego. So I got to see how you're going to look as my assistant. Because after he's done redoing the deck on his house and whatever other chores he gets busy with, in about 2 months' time, he'll have the itch and he'll be right in my backyard.
Hey, yo!
You're right. That's it.
Thank you, Coach. So next up is a man that needs no introduction, the best leader that I've ever been around, let alone work for, former, recently retired Superintendent President of the College of the Sequoias, Mr. Stan Carasosa.
Okay, let me unfold my notes here. I wrote them down on this napkin. First of all, congratulations, Coach, and Susie, and girls. It's a real pleasure and a privilege to be able to be here. There haven't been many things in the last year that have brought me out into the open, but this event was definitely one of them. So I'm really glad that you remembered me, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I've only had, compared to all the history and knowledge in the room, I've only had a few years to actually build a friendship with Rusty, but it might be the kindred spirits. You know, redheads have something special in common, but we immediately hit it off, and we've been good friends during that period of time, and that's not often the case when you're the college president, you're working with staff, and in this case, in particular, coach and faculty leader, but we always had a great relationship. It started good and it just continued to get better. I do have a couple, this isn't really my version of a roast, but there are a couple of funny stories that I remember in times that Rusty and I had the opportunity to be together. When I first got to the college, and I didn't follow COS basketball faithfully before that, knew a little bit of Rusty, knew of the reputation, of course, the College of the Sequoias, had been around Brent for a long time, especially when he was athletic director. But I was new on campus and I was just getting to know everybody and all the faculty. And saw Rusty walking across campus one day and went back in and talked with Brent and I said, hey, I think I saw Coach Smith, right? The tall guy, red hair. And Brent says, yeah. I go, he is a really cool cat, you know it? And Brent says, why, what do you mean? Oh, and Brent goes, oh yeah, because of the red hair, right? Because I'm always saying everybody with red hair. I go, no, because he rocks that dead leg, man. I like that wall, you know? And Brent says, he has a disability. And I felt horrible. I thought we were just grooving it, Coach. True story. So my second one, and there aren't a lot of coaches that would feel comfortable, I suppose, with their superintendent president on their bench or hanging out in their locker room or sitting in their dugout. But that's where I was during the games. I just loved that energy, a former coach myself, an athlete. That's a place where I felt comfortable, I felt at home. This one particular game, I come in, it was a couple years ago, get into the gym, just about tip off like I normally do. And Rusty and the guys are standing over by the little hospitality door where they hang out just before the game. And I went up, shook Rusty's hand, congratulated him on the season so far, said, hey, good luck tonight. We were playing Fresno City. And as you heard earlier, that's a big deal. And they were at home and we were having a pretty darn good year. And it's a little extra nervous when you're getting ready for the city game. And that happened to be a period of time where for a short while, I had been recruited to consider leaving COS and taking a job down in Orange County. And I didn't want necessarily to do that, but I was honest with the staff, and I said, look, I'm going to explore this opportunity. It's a very good opportunity. I was going to say it's a big salary, very good opportunity. And I just think in fairness to myself and my family, I should explore this. So I was open with the staff. They knew what was going on. They knew I was interviewing in this process of finalists. And Rusty Saunders up alongside me, and he says, dang it, so you're thinking about leaving? And I said, oh, Coach, come on, man. It's just, I already felt bad. I said, look, it's just an opportunity. I'm just exploring it, He says, well, I get it. You got to do what's right for you and for your family. And he says, if it's good for you, I wish you the best. And that's the kind of guy Rusty is, right? And I just looked at him, knowing we were playing Fresno City, knowing they were tough, knowing we were going to have a rough night. I go, look, Coach, if you win tonight, I'll stay. And he kind of blew it off, and we get, true story, right, Coach? And so we get to playing, and shit, we're winning. And it's like nip and tuck down to the end, and I'm going, we're not going to pull this out. We are going to pull, and of course, I wanted to win. I didn't care what the fallout was with Rusty. I wanted to win. And at the end of the night, man, we win the game. And I'm thinking, I'm telling Calvin, he's not going to remember it, because I go into the locker room after we win the game. I go in the locker room, they're doing the cheers and yelling, and I'm having a great time. And I get to the locker room, and Rusty's standing there waiting for me. I won't use the expletive, but you'll know where it goes. He says, "You're staying." So I owe it to him. He controlled my fate. And you guys know the rest of the story. Last little opportunity, we had to have some fun together. Last year, actually a year ago now, my last year on the job, and it was a fun year. I announced my retirement at the beginning of the year, but all year long we're working. And as the year got closer to the end, there were little things to celebrate my retirement. Coach Allen had me come out. Jody's great with this stuff, but he says, Stan, we want to come out. I'd like to have you throw the first pitch. Earlier that year, he had Rusty out as head basketball coach to throw the first pitch. So I go, okay. I didn't tell Jody this because I didn't want to sound like excuses. Athletes, there's no excuses, right? I had a torn rotator cuff, which, by the way, I now have the surgery scars to prove, but it hadn't been fixed in about 10 years. But I said, I don't care. I'm just going to get up there and hurl this thing anyway. So I go out, get ready to throw the pitch. Calvin has to bring the entire senior management team out. Everybody's got phones out and stuff, right? Rusty grabs me on the way out to the mound. He goes, I just want you to know, he had me out to throw the first pitch earlier this year, and I threw a BB. And I'm like, Coach, I got this, man. I go out, stand up on the mound, fire this thing. I mean, it went straight to the catcher's mitt after the 2 bounces. Right, Jody? Jody put his arm around me because you're in deep shit. Here. No. And so it was just another opportunity to share kind of the fun camaraderie that we enjoyed together. But in all honesty now, and in truth, it really is a special feeling to be able to be in a top administrative position and have a relationship like this with your faculty. To be able to be welcomed on their bench, be welcomed in their dugout, to travel and watch them play. These guys would end up in the state tournament. We were there. And I know Rusty always appreciated that, but what you may not have appreciated, Coach, is how much we enjoyed doing that. Those were the road trips that Calvin and I look forward to the most. And so to you as a coach for welcoming me as an administrator into your athletic world, it just made my years at COS that much more special. So my toast is to Rusty Smith, to Sue, to their girls, to their family, to the wonderful life I know you guys are going to have. Here.
He's been waiting 14 months to set the record straight on that torn rotator.
He didn't bounce it. He did not bounce it.
We're going to send out a press release to the Times Delta tonight, Stan had a torn rotator cuff when he bounced it to the catcher. Talking about road trips, the funnest one, Stan, until the game actually started, was when you and I went all the way up to San Francisco for that playoff game. Front row, sea of red, we've got bright orange shirts on. I'm talking bright orange, and like this orange. And everybody kind of identified us, oh, that's the COS superintendent president, that must be his bodyguard.
We were Schwarzenegger and DeVito.
We were the twins. And we were having a hell of a good time until the game started, and I swear, within 5 minutes, we were probably down 25, right? And and the thing was, we were right in the middle, couldn't get out, bright orange shirt, we just had to sit there and take it, didn't we? It got to be comical there for a while, but memories we'll never forget. Our next speaker is an individual I talked about earlier. That's Mr. Dave Howell, geography instructor at the College of the Sequoias, and just an all-around stud. Fantastic faculty member. He is as good as it comes in the classroom. He's also a big sports fan. He's played basketball with the group for at least 20 years now. And look at the guy. I mean, he's 73 years old, and he's looking like that. Hey, Dave Howell.
It's good to see so many former students here, right? Former students and players. Yeah. Anyways, I think Brent talked about how we play basketball all the time. We have a group of older guys, and we get together and we play all the time in the mornings. And we've been playing for years and years and years. And a lot of the guys are here. I mean, Mitch used to play. A lot of Kent's here, right? Where's Kent at? Kent Reeves is here, and Neil's back there. We've been playing forever, right? And a lot of the guys are fairly religious guys. You know, they're involved with CVC and everything. Really nice guys. So we try to watch our language when we play. Like the worst things we say anymore, like Jiminy Christmas and Holy Cow and Gosh Darn and things like this. So for years and years, we would play the first game of the Pepsi tournament. It started back with Tarkanian. And then when Rusty came, we kind of continued the tradition, and we'd have scrimmages against the COS team. So one day we're playing against these guys, and we actually go up by 8 in the first half. And it's in the old gym, and it's just a scrimmage. And we're sitting there watching Rusty, and I don't know that I can do this in public, but I guess it's the theme of the night, right? Rusty says, "You're gonna let a bunch of these old suckers beat your with A-double-S's. What the is going on here?" And then he looks up, and then a lot of the guys' wives are sitting right behind him on the bench right there. The funniest thing I saw, he goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." But anyways,
Did you say Rusty apologized for something?
I think he felt really bad. Something that has to be said about Russ is well, maybe some of you have, what a great community guy he is too. I think my kids went to like 12 of your summer camps and had just the greatest time. And then Rusty would come up also and do camps for us in Three Rivers at the little school where I coached. And he'd bring his players up, that slam dunk contest. It was really fun. And then we always try to get Rusty to dunk at the end. And that was always an experience, right? And first it was the basketball, then it was the volleyball, and then it became a tennis ball, and then we lowered that rim for you, right? So you could actually dunk, right? So I've always appreciated that, and Rusty's been great. I coached NJB, the little guys, for a lot of years, and we always had trouble getting gyms, and you know, the athletic directors would be worried about us being in there without insurance or whatever. Rusty would always get us in there, right? Before practice or after practice. And one thing, Rusty, when we played those games, why was it you always said, if Hal scores, you run? All I wanted to do was score 2 points and go home and tell my kids that I scored in the college game, right? And my other memory is these two knuckleheads here, the Miscos in my class, right? So I go out there, and of course they double team me. Yeah, I'm not gonna score. They double team me, and I get a turnover. I walk into class, and that's the first thing they have up there, showing a video of me, right, with the steal. So I really appreciate that. But I've been here 31 years now, and I've seen a lot of basketball coaches come through, and some real good ones, but you do have big shoes to fill.
he's probably been the best for sure, without a doubt. A quality program that he takes care of the kids, right, in the classroom too. If there's ever a problem, and I tell Rusty, he takes care of it right away. So anyways, good luck, Rusty. Thank you.
Thank you, Big Dave. We are inching closer to hearing from several of our former student athletes. Yeah, you can sit down. We're not hearing from you yet, pal. Sit down and take it for a little while longer, okay, big guy? Hey, our next speaker is Andrew Yonan. Yo has been a coach here at the College of the Sequoias for the last 6 years, become a staple of our program, and would like to share some insight about Coach Smith.
Hey, yo! That's me, by the way. You know where you got that from? I do. So I was assistant for 5 years with Coach. Got to work very close with him, and got to see, you know, traits of honesty, gentleness, kindness towards players and staff, or lack thereof. And the first example came on my very first road trip at Western College. We were gearing up to go to our shoot around in the morning, and Bud lost the van keys. So we formed a search party, everybody, you know, try to find the keys, let's get to the shoot around on time. And I find them within 3 seconds. They're on the floor right in front of the lobby. And I'm about to go take them to Bud, and here comes Daddy. Hand them over. So he takes Bud on a big wild goose chase. He's looking in trash cans. He's got him in the storm drain. They might have dropped in here, Bud. Why don't you check in there? Finally, he's got Bud so riled up, and then Chris pulls up in the van honking the horn. Then the next story was our road trip to San Francisco. We'd always stay at the same Marriott nearby the hotel, the airport, and it was our first time staying there. We had been in some of the most awful hotels that year. For some reason, we struck money on this one. This place was legit. Nice facilities there. You know, rooms were clean, solid. Breakfast comes. Well, that night we played Cypress College, who had not won a game at that point. They were like 0-10 or something like that. And they wiped us out. They killed us. We were pissed off. They ended up being pretty solid that year, but at the time it was their first win. We were pretty disappointed. And breakfast comes in the next morning, and we're on edge a little bit. They pull out just a big old tray of eggs. There was nothing else there but just eggs. And no serving spoons, nothing. Coach is leading the way with a little fork and a spoon trying to load his plate. He's just getting eggs. There's nothing there. And then one of the players, of course, makes a comment, and you don't even deserve breakfast. What are you talking about? Breakfast? Get out of here. Right as that happens, one of the guys who's he's probably just a maintenance guy at the hotel, just decided, he's just looking like the happiest guy in the world coming in. Hey guys, everything okay? Bro, everything is not okay. This breakfast is dog shit. There's no serving spoons. There's no bacon, no sausage. Sure enough, they brought some trays over, man, and we've been going back to the hotel every year ever since. But those are the two stories that my life flashes before my eyes every time I think about the last 5 years. Those are the two things that are going to come up. The rest probably got to hold up until after 10. But anyways, happy trails, Daddy.
Thank you, Yo. Now I'd like to invite up Dale Fugate, a family friend that had a daughter that played with Kim and Allie. He'd like to say a few words. Welcome, Dale.
I'm going to keep it real short. I just have a couple of stories. First of all, you know, Susan is a nutritionalist. Is there anybody in this room that's not had a donut or a Circle K corn dog with Rusty? No, one time, it's probably been 12 or 15 years ago, Rusty took me down to a UCLA basketball game. We went down there to see him play Michigan. Well, of course, Mr. Big Time here, whenever we get there, we don't go to the gym, we go to the athletic department, go straight to the top. Well, he has had a ball signed by Coach Wood for one of his fundraisers. We get the ball and we hobnob with all these big wigs in the athletic department, and he says, before the game starts, we need to go back out and put the ball in the truck. So we parked in a parking structure across the road. We go down there, we walk out to the truck. Now, we're here in Los Angeles, the car theft capital of America. Rusty had not only left the door unlocked to the truck, the key is in the ignition, the truck is running.
And it's down the front. And it's Rick's truck.
That's all I got, Brent. Thank you.
By a show of hands, does that surprise anybody? That's just Rusty, right? Thank you, Dale, for that. Appreciate that. I think our last non-student athlete is the parent of a student athlete. Please welcome Lori Reeves.
So I first met Rusty when I started back to COS to complete my college degree, and it was the fall of 2001. During breaks between my classes, I would go walk the track for a little bit of exercise. And now understand that I walk really fast. I try to keep up with a very tall husband, and then also at the time, 2 very quick-moving boys. When I finished my walk around and started to exit the track, I passed by a group of students and their instructor, who was Rusty, and the instructor introduced himself to me and commented on how fast I walked, and that I could teach the students in his walk-jog class a thing or two about actually moving around the track. So as I left for class, I thought, you know, he seems like a charming man who really doesn't mince any words. A handful of years later, Rusty was sitting in my living room attempting to convince Lance to come play basketball at COS. I was impressed with his willingness to make this effort to speak encouragement into Lance. In looking back over my opportunity to observe Rusty as a coach, I believe his athletes who chose to take his instruction and adopt a solid work ethic left COS basketball with a level of unique grit and the ability to succeed in each area of their lives. So Rusty, thank you for investing in not only my son, but in the lives of hundreds of other student athletes who have come through basketball through the program at College of Sequoias. May the Lord bless you and Susan as you look forward to this new amazing season in your lives together.
Turns out we have one more non-student athlete, and that is longtime team manager / assistant coach. That's Mr. Bud Warner.
It's going to be a tough act to follow. We had some pretty good stuff said tonight about the big guy. Stole a lot of my stuff. Joe. I want you to know I took the heat off you a year ago in February. I bought a pickup, so I know what we speak. No, I started with Rusty. I followed the team for several years. I had a buddy that was with me. Saw you guys play down there on the hill in San Diego. Saw the game in Coalinga. I agree with your assessment of why we lost that game. My partner got real sick, couldn't make it anymore, and I was up at a tournament in Modesto. It was a 4-day tournament, and I run into Coach, and he says, "Where's Larry?" And I said, "Well, I don't think he's going to be able to make it anymore. He's real sick." And he said, "Where are you staying?" I said, "Well, I'm low budgeted now because I got to pay for everything. We used to share." I said, "I'm over at Motel 6. He said, "Well, I can do better than that for you. I got an odd number of players. I'll move 3 into one room, and you can have that room." I said, "Well, if I'm going to do that, I got to help out somehow. I'll do the team laundry. How's that?" Okay, so we cut a deal. For 2 nights on the road, I did the laundry. Little did I know that was going to turn into 9 years of every day. I think it's been touched on several times. Rusty has very colorful speech. Give you a story. We're in the old gym. You know, it's real tight in there. The benches were right, the seats were right behind the benches. We're about this close to the fans. We're sitting there, the team's warming up, coach is out on the floor, and here comes this gentleman with about a 6-year-old child. He sits him down right behind where coach is going to sit, and he says, "No, I want you to listen to Coach Smith. You're going to learn how to play basketball." I couldn't let that go. I calmly walked over and I said, "In all due respect, sir, that young man's going to learn a whole lot more than basketball." They moved. So anyway, I had never been involved with coaching, especially basketball. I played several sports in high school. Basketball wasn't one of them. Incidentally, Jody, I still got that curveball. I'm working on it. He gave me a chance to be an assistant coach. I wasn't really a coach. I was a manager. I drove the vans. Whatever had to happen with the team, I helped out, did the laundry. But I didn't realize all of the what assistant coach is called on to do. I mean, there's a lot of responsibility, folks. Fixing electrical problems in rental houses. Installing water heaters in the coach's house. It gets better. Plumbing, leaking, and the other. We had a couple rental houses that the players, incidentally, if anyone's listening here from the commissioner's office, they paid legal amount of rent. It was all done on the up and up. But my favorite job, when coach would leave town, I would get to dog sit. And I didn't really mind that. I like dogs. I've got a couple of them myself. I'd go over and feed the dogs, make sure they were okay, put them outside for a while. Everything was fine. But the one year it kind of got to me was when I found out the reason I was dog sitting is he was taking the other 2 assistants to the Final Four. True story. I could go on and on. That key story, though, I was going to use that as how, with all this said, he always had my back. Because he put his arm around me, and we walked around that compound for 30 minutes looking for those damn keys. And he knew where they were. Coach Dugan comes driving in the other van, waving them at me. But, you know, I wouldn't trade any of it. I'm going to tell you something. He gave me an opportunity to be part of something that was really, really good stuff. I'm getting a little emotional right now. I've been with him for, the book says 11, I think it's 12, but a long time. And I got nothing but good things to say about him, all kidding aside. Coach, thank you.
Thank you, Bud. Folks, we're hitting the home stretch here. We've got 4 student athletes that we'd like to hear from. And the first I'll invite up, I planned on having him follow his mom, and then Bud decided to talk. But let's have Lance Reeve join us here at the podium.
All right, so when we played at COS, we had early morning workouts that we had to go to. My first semester there, I scheduled classes, and turns out they were all in the morning, so I couldn't go to these workouts. You know, and as a player, athleticism, quickness wasn't really my thing. You could even argue defense in general was just not my thing. So coach would talk to me a lot about basketball IQ. And one day he, pulled me aside and said, "Lance, come here. I'll never forget this." He said, "Lance, you got to play smart. At the next level, there's not a big market for 6-foot unathletic white guys." So I took that and used that advice, right? And I haven't ever told anybody this, but the rest of my time at COS, I scheduled my classes so I would never have to be at those morning workouts. So great basketball IQ. Rusty, great coach. Wish you the best in retirement. Always play smart.
It's now time to hear from an individual that did a heck of a lot for our program, along with a lot of the players in here. Went to that first Final Four, but man, we had a lot of good laughs along the way, and that's Mr. Javance Coleman. So Coach Charlins, he wasn't kidding earlier when we were a little concerned that Javance wouldn't be here, because that year Javance was with us. If Coach Charlins or I didn't pick him up, he was no-showing. He was, at some point, he was trying to commute to and from Fresno, and if any of us would call him, didn't matter what time it was normally he was late for practice, but whatever time he was supposed to be there, he wasn't there, we'd call, "Coach, I'm in Kingsburg. I'm in Kingsburg." You would think this guy lived in Kingsburg. After all the calls, he said, "I'm not even sure if you really knew where Kingsburg was, but you just said." And then the whole year, he had picked up on the fact that Mitch's last name is Charlins and started calling him Charlie. Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. That was his name, Charlie, Charlie. And it was 8 months into the school year, season was over, and somebody called him Mitch. And you said, "Why are they calling you Mitch, Charlie?" Remember that? Ladies and gentlemen, Javance Coleman.
Yeah, this is new for me. I'm excited to be here. Coach Smith is a great dude, but I'm just going to be honest. I'm traumatized. It was a great time. I mean, but I don't know. Some of the things he said, I think we all understand and came from the heart. But my mom, she's from Jackson, Mississippi. My dad is from Little Rock, Arkansas. So to hear a guy say, "Javance, come here, come here, come here," and then I come over and he say, it's a little bit different, you know. It was all love, you know. Also, Mitch, listen, we were just talking. She's been with me 18 years. Just thinking of some of the things I did to you, Coach. You did more than just take care of what he just told you to do. I mean, you came to pick me up. She's been driving. She said, "Your coach is outside." I said, "He said he wasn't going to be here for 15 minutes. He said he's parked right there." I climb out the window and go the other way. He called me and said, "Hey, where you at, buddy?" I said, "I'm on the way to the house." He said, "Okay, I should be there in about 15 minutes too." Well, the whole time he's parked in front of my house. So, I mean, he did a lot. I mean, that was a great year we had. Brett, Charlie, you know, that year. That year was a complete mental health thing they did. They worked with us. We were all over the place. We were athletic. We were inappropriate. Coach Smith was highly inappropriate. But, you know, it was some of the things that made me who I am. These two, just to go back to Brett, he used to tell me when I used to get kicked out of practice every day that I'd get out there and be like, "Javance, trust me, I've been knowing him for 20 years. Well, he just told me he's been knowing him for 17. So that's another one that I'm just like, you know, they were just doing whatever they can to get
one job, get you back in the gym.
So it was means necessary. By any means necessary. So it was a fun time. I enjoyed it. Like I said, Coach Charlins, he helped so much with Coach Rusty, you know, making me who I am. I have a very kind of low-key attitude, and Coach Smith isn't with it. He'd kick me out of practice, I'd leave and say, "I'm not coming back," and he'd send him to come get me and tell me to come back. And I want to know how someone can tell you, "Get out of my practice, I don't want to see your face, do not come back here." And then these two will come and say, "No, what he means is, he loves you, get here early." Get here early tomorrow to practice, and just be on time and be hard. You know what I mean? So it was highly confusing, you know. And two more things also, I had no idea you were a teacher. I swear to God, I thought you were just a guy from Visalia that played open gym with us. I had no idea you were a teacher. I swear to God, I am so sorry about that.
You had his class also. Actually, I think I have 4 degrees.
Listen, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Coach, listen, I thought you were just a baseball coach. I had no idea. I love COS to death. They helped me out so much. I have a degree. Thank you, COS. love Coach Smith. Sue, you helped so much. My mom loves you. She remember hearing you when I'm walking by. Javance, don't worry about it. This is after he told me, get out and you never get back in. You ain't sit down. And she's like, Javance, it's okay. You know, so she's been a comfort for me. The girls, when I saw you guys right now, it almost brought me to tears. I thought you guys were still playing softball. I'm sure we're playing softball. I thought they were that small still. So I'm just happy to be here. I'm grateful to see all my teammates. I love them all. You know, we had a great year. And Rusty, I love you to death, man. If it wasn't for you, there never would have been any Javance Coleman in Fresno State, man. When I came down here, you told me, you know, I would be everything if I put my all into it. You were eating something, like always, but I just want to ask him, like you said, who else, any other players in here, got verbally abused and then taken across the street to 7-Eleven and get a chili dog and a chip and a drink? I know me and Rob Powell did. You know, but it's like, who else has high blood pressure? Trust me, we all that it works.
You know, we weren't supposed to sit Javance and Rob together. We forgot that. So, Javance, what you didn't see as you were getting tossed out the gym is you weren't gone a second, and Rusty would look at either Mitch or I and give us that look like, what are you waiting for? Go get him! Every single time. I had one job. I was the athletic director, and somehow I got roped into being the Javance whisperer. Our next student athlete is a wonderful human being that played on, I think the 04, 05, and 05, 06 teams, representing the great Santa Monica High teams. Coach Hecht is here in attendance. He sent us so many wonderful players, wonderful human beings. We have several here in attendance. And let's please welcome Mr. Greg Walker.
So, I was thinking about this story when I first came. I think it was the second time I came out here, and Coach picked me up in Hanford at the train station. You know, and I didn't have a car, so that was my way to get out here. And he picks us up, and he's just talking. I'm just like, man, this dude's crazy. So, as many of you guys know, driving through Hanford, it's the cows, everything. I'm from Santa Monica. I'm like, what is this? You know, I live by the beach. You know, I could, you know, but this guy, he's flying down, and you know, it's a trend with how he drives. He's crazy. I didn't feel safe, but we're driving, and it's smelling, and he just puts all the windows down, and he's got his head out the window. You know, we got back here safely, and I remember calling my mom, and I just said, Mom, he's insane. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. But, you know, I did, and he was just a very important person in my life. Like, I came here 18 years old, 100 and maybe 50 pounds. So 120. Okay, 120. And you know, he gave me all the confidence to be a great basketball player. And I can remember a meeting we had, and he said, Greg, you're the only person on this team that can shoot. If you don't shoot the ball, I'm going to take you out. And, you know, I held on to that, and until today I still shoot the ball. You know, but he just gave me ultimate confidence, and you know, he molded me into the man I am today. And you know, I wouldn't miss this for the world. And you know, I had to bring up something sad, but my mother passed away 2 years ago today, and I had to be here for him because how special he is to me and to my mom. And you know, my mom trusted him when I was 18 years old to come out here for 2 years and you know, mold me into the person I am today. And you know, I thank my high school coach for, you know, I'm a little nervous. I don't like talking in front of people, but I thank my high school coach for, you know, giving me the opportunity to meet this coach and, you know, be where I'm at, and one of my teammates is here, and then I see a bunch of familiar faces. So it's just a great opportunity, but I used to love when he would just rip us, and then, you know, because it was so interesting. He would just say the craziest things. I was like, who thinks of this? Like, I mean, there's so many things he said. It's like, what part of your brain is that coming from? And then as soon as he's ripping us, I'm just like, oh my God, like, I'm gonna go home. And then, you know, he'll pull me to the side, Greg, I love you. But we, you know, he, you know, to every player that played from, you know, he treated us all, you know, differently, you know, special. He was just a great person, but I love him. I still think he's the craziest dude I've ever met in my life.
Let me just make sure that Teddy Fletcher hasn't sauntered in, has he?
Right here.
Oh, there's my guy! Teddy Fletcher, I always did like a big entrance. Get up here. People said we couldn't play 3 point guards at the same time, and all we did was go to the Final Four and go 28-3. Rob Powell, Javance Coleman, and Teddy Fletcher. Get up here, Teddy. I like that beard, man. Got that James Harden thing going. Yeah.
Oh, I get to go to hell. Oh, go. Yeah, we just walked in.
What about that, man?
Oh, man, way to put a brother on blast. All right. Some people got written jokes down there? Okay. This might go left. I haven't seen this many white people in one room. They passed the abortion bill. Oh man, yeah. Like I said, this could go left. They don't usually let me do the talking. See, that's the miscos. I thought angry in the building. Angry. That's not angry. Okay. My bad. So I guess I'll take it back to one of the times I first met Rusty.
He's coming with the hook, man.
Rusty came down to the house with, I think it was Mitch, it was Rusty, and it might have been Hardy. And my mom asked him all these kind of questions, and I was just waiting for the conversation to turn into something that was supposed to turn into, so I can ask him one question. I said, Coach, I got one question for you. How do you keep an idiot in suspense? I said, you can talk now. And then I wrote one joke down, and it says to talk about Mitch and Rusty's halitosis, but that was from 04, so that was an old joke, so I couldn't do that one. And then I had a joke about, he said, tell one Mexican joke. And I said, no, because that's kind of corny. And then, all the other jokes, I'm telling you, will go way out of this room. So I thought about the one time where I stayed at Rusty's house when I first moved to Visalia. And it was an interesting time. And he told me, he came to me politely, he said, we gotta let you go, we gotta get you out of the house, we gotta kick you out. I was like, this is so out of nowhere, like what's going on, why are you kicking me out of the house? He's like, besides the fact that you're always watching porn, There's a lot of bestiality, child stuff, child pornography. You smell like cocaine when you walk in here. You smell like weed. He said you're messy. I turned to look and said, messy? All the other stuff was right on the money, but messy, I don't see where that's coming from. And I thought about when I first met Coach Mitch and I first met Slim, and that conversation went left. And then I thought about when I first met Rusty's kids, and that conversation went left. I said, man, let's keep it real. That second kid looks just like Mitch. I don't know. And they had this beautiful golden retriever. I said, that first kid looks just like, never mind, I'm not even gonna go there. It's a cruel joke. But I'll never forget the time when we were down 1 to go to the Final Four. And Coach looked just right at me, and he says, if we lose this game, it's on you. I was like, that's a random statement to make with 5 seconds left in the game. And so he put the ball in my hands, and we went down the court, and we made a game-winning shot. And I read the newspaper article the next day, and he said he took all the credit. That sounds just like Rusty. But when Brent Calvin invited me to come out today, he said that we're going to do a presentation for the greatest coach in Visalia history. And I said, so it's the coach that was right before Rusty, right? And there's no way it's for him. And then he said we're going to have like this projector to show like all his greatest moments. And he said we couldn't get a projector. So he sent it to me on my phone for Rusty's all his greatest moments. So just take a selfie. That's pretty much it.
We've got one more student athlete to hear from. Are you speaking now too? We got all kind of guys coming out of the woodwork. Why y'all waiting until we have to go to the bathroom and get a second helping a cake to say you want to speak? But that's good. We got one more student athlete to hear from, and he's right here in front of me. Another solid human being like the rest of these student athletes, Bobby Kazar.
I'll be really fast, actually. No, don't worry. Look at this watch. It's fine. I'll be real fast. Because I'll tell you, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to roast you. I really didn't. You know, my dad came home and he's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to sign you up for this roast and toast. I'm like, why? He's like, because you're going to roast Rusty. I'm like, I have nothing to roast him about. He's like, well, you better figure it out because it's coming up. So here's my one thing I'm going to roast Rusty about, I guess. So I'm from Ohio. I'm a Midwest boy. Very boring. Yeah, thank you. You're great. You're awesome. There we go. But no, I'm man. I come to California. I had all these things. Like, what am I going to see? You know, I read stuff. I didn't read sports news. You know, look at stuff. Like, oh, what is all this stuff in the season? All right, go to California. Go to Bakersfield first. See that you go coach there. This place stinks. I'm not going here. It's all dusty about it. So then I'm like, I'm going to go to Visalia because my folks are already in contact with Rusty Smith here. And I go see Coach. And it was pretty good. I saw him yell the first day. I didn't see Dugan. Dugan was probably out recruiting actually a good player for the team. They came and saw me. I remember Rusty said, hey, come in. We have a 10 a.m. Open gym. And you know, we play with some of the guys. I'm like, all right, cool. You know, give me some of the dudes and play some ball. And this is 2015. This is in July. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. It's so hot. I'm like, what is this? Like, this is terrible. And I just come from Ohio. It's so bipolar the weather. You know, I hate this. It's like steaming. This place sucks already. Walk in the gym. Like, this gym is beautiful. Like, this is a great gym. And I look across. I see. And you're not gonna know some of these things. But I see Kyle Hurt, and he's just throwing balls against walls as hard as he can. Like,
doing passing drills or something. What the hell is this kid doing? I see one of my teammates, Zach, his eyes are all like blacked out, and I see Kendrick behind him, he's wearing space tights. I look over, I see Marcus, and he has like a shirt with like stains in it and holes, and I'm like, what the hell? I look across, and here comes this giant just walking towards me. And it's this fucking neo-Nazi just skipping towards me, just walking, hand extended, just, hey yo! Hey, what's going on? You solid? All I can think is myself shaking this guy's hand, smiling, but in my head I'm like, what the hell are you myself into? This is gonna be bad.
Not the Highland more.
No, not a Highland. What it ended up being was some of the best 2 years of basketball I ever had, most fun I ever had playing, and I owe it to him. You know, he has his way of doing things, and I think it's the right way. I come home with stories like, Mom, you said this, you said that. Mom's like, good. I'm like, all right, he must be good then. Mom says he's good, so he's good. So I'm really grateful for everything Coach has done. I think I'm one of I don't see any guys from when I play with any of these guys that are around now, that's in here right now, but great coach, man. Great mentor, great friend, you know, just all around solid individual. You know, can't do much better than that, so congrats, Coach.
So my strict instructions were to get Rusty up here by 8:30, but we've got two more quick ones, and they're both former assistants that have gone on to bigger and better things. And the first one I want to introduce is Chris Dugan.
Make this quick. So I was fresh out of college and talked to Brent Davis. He said, hey, you got to come here. You got to learn from this great coach. He's going to teach you everything you need to know. I'm like, all right, let's go. So I go, and the first time I talk to him, he's mowing the lawn. And the lawnmower is going, and I'm like, all right, whatever. This is supposed to work. So I come here, and I don't even learn anything about basketball. For the first 2 months, what are we doing? In July, we're fixing the houses, all right? And, you know, Mitch, where you at? Charlie, you didn't do anything, but it's all right. Sorry. So, we're cleaning the floors, and I'm a midget, and Rusty's a giant. And we're in this little shower. It's probably, what, 4x2, tiny. And there's these panels, and Rusty's like, hey man, it's hot in here. So he takes his shirt off, all right? And as short as I am, Rusty's like this, hey dude, I need you to hold this up right here. And I got an armpit right in my face. And I'm thinking like, Brent Davis, thank you. I'm learning a lot about basketball. Then he's like, hey dude, and you know, getting back to him, he's probably one of the best woodwork. I'm telling you, decks, chairs, James Heck, you know what it is, right? So his credit with woodwork is unbelievable. Well, that day it wasn't. So he's like, hey dude, we gotta cut the panels. I'm like, all right, cool, you know what you're doing, let's go. I'm looking, and there's nothing proper to put it on top of. So what we do is, we put it on a dresser, okay? So he plugs in the saw. He's like, dude, I need you to hold it. So he goes, he starts cutting. And he goes, hey, dude, go check that outlet right there, right? It's a little messed up. Well, that house burnt down, so we know the electrical proven not to be good. Well, it wasn't electrical. It was a dresser that he was sawing through. Well, he ends up powering it through. He saws through the entire dresser. We ended up getting the job done. And 3 months later, I'm walking Chris Ross into his room. I'm like, hey, this is where you're gonna be staying, blah, blah, blah. Well, I see that same dresser glued together. And as always, going to Home Depot and finding the cheapest paint possible, right? This ugly brown, just nasty diarrhea. And he goes, hey Chris, I even got this dresser for you, man. And he looks at me. The last one, make it quick, is, so it's time to redo the floors. The players beat it up, all you guys lived at Cypress, all former players. It gets nasty. Dude, let's go. And so he wants to refinish how many square feet? 500 square feet? Okay, so he's like, hey, we pull everything out. He has a belt sander, all right? And this man's supposed to be the magician of woodwork. He's down on his hand and knees doing a belt saw, trying to re-sand the floor. Well, that didn't work out really well. We ended up getting the full belt sander. Enough of that. Coach, you were by far one of the greatest impacts of my life. I get emotional. I really don't want to talk, but you are, words can't even explain how good of a coach you are. You don't take no credit for anything. You gave me one compliment, and that's when your first, no, I swear. You gave me one compliment. And it was after we lost to Fresno City, they kicked our butt, and he looks at me and goes, Coach, you know, you did a good job, you're gonna be successful. And that was his only losing season. And I felt bad because in 17 years, he's never had, you know, besides that one time having a losing season. You're a great coach, you're a better person, and I think you've affected many people, so many lives affected. Sorry, inside joke. And I have to say, because James Hecht here, if Ben Hallen was here, he would say you're the nicest coach in college basketball.
My, have we overshared tonight, huh? Whew. We've got one more former assistant, done a few good things since he left here 17 years ago. This will be one of the few times that I actually smile to see him in Visalia, because normally this guy's getting my mean mug. Please welcome Fresno City head basketball coach Ed Maddox.
Okay, sit down, sit your ass down. You've been up here long enough, you're tired of hearing this ass. You want to hear me talk, that's right, tell the truth. Those are my boys back there. The 1 year I spent here in Visalia, excuse me, the 9 months I spent here in Visalia, and I don't say this jokingly, were probably the best 9 months of my life. I made great friends here in Visalia. I played a lot of good basketball with you guys. Had I not been so old and gray now, I'd have come back here and taken this job. That's how much I love you, Brent Calvin, and I recruited these Misco boys here. I recruited them, not you. I found those guys. Were you enjoying the Final Four team? Right? You're on the Final Four team? Where's Apollinario? Raise your hand. Who brought you to Sequoias? Me. Okay, now we're getting to the meat of this, right? I'm just joking. Today, the reason I'm late, I just got here about 15 minutes ago. The reason I'm late to this, I was in San Jose all day. My mother lives with me. I brought my mother here 2 years ago from the East Coast. My wife and I back there, put your hand up, Mama. We brought my that's really the head coach of Fresno City right there. We brought my mother here. She lives with us. We take really good care of my mother. And we're from the East Coast originally, so I had to go to San Jose so she could see some longtime family that we hadn't seen in years. And I didn't think I was going to make it. And I told my mom, you got to cut this short. I need to come down here and pay my respects to Coach Smith because he gave me my break in coaching. He brought me to the College of Sequoias and let me coach for 1 year. I learned a lot from him. And my mom and I talked about him a lot today. And I told her, and she said, oh, you don't have to go. No, I got to go. And the reason why I needed to go is beyond basketball. Rusty's loyal. In 2010, 2009, 2010, it was my fourth year at Fresno City, and he was playing in my tournament. We were ranked number 2 in the North. San Francisco was 1. 30 seconds into the game, I get tossed out of the game. Whether I deserved it or not, I got tossed. Rusty had my back when no one else did, and Rusty saved my job that year. That was the year I became tenured. Without him, I don't know if I would have got tenured because Fresno is a dark, cold, political place, and they wanted me out. That's the truth. And he stood up, and he told my president, I don't know if he, I mean, I'm going to say it, he lied for me. He lied about what happened, and he saved my job. And I can say that now because I'm 17 years in, almost 18 years into retirement. I got about 10 more to go. So I got this new young whippersnapper sitting here, coming here to kick my ass.
We hope so. Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything I'll regret, so I'll just stop right there. But on a serious note, thank you, Rusty, Coach, because you've always been there for me. I know we've had some real dog fights over the years, but you're a great friend. When I came here, and I'm the best assistant he's ever had. Let's get that straight, Mitch. When I came here, those two beautiful women at the end of that table, those ladies were little girls like this, like my kids. And I remember Rusty being a tough guy in the gym. And all of a sudden we got in the car, and I was in the front seat of that little Beamer I used to drive, and they were in the back. And all of a sudden, Daddy did this, Daddy, and he was like, okay, okay. And he was so soft. And I was like, what? Fucking pussy. I was like, what the hell? But those little girls just had him wrapped around his finger, boy. And anyway, I don't have anything else. I know you've heard a lot of stories. I can tell you a ton of them. Believe me, we had our fun. Oh, and it can go on. Is the baseball coach here? Too many F-bombs. Yeah. Too many F-bombs. That's coming. Okay, brother. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you, Eddie. Man, what a night. I've got about another 30 seconds and then we'll give Rusty the floor. I just want to thank all of you for coming out in support of this coach and his program, former coaches, student athletes, and fans, boosters, supporters. If you're here, it wasn't an accident. It was by design. Folks in this room, as I look around, this is COS Giant history. Folks that have worked really, really hard to make our college, this program, and this coach look good. So thank you so much for coming out in support of Coach Smith. And now it's the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's hear from Coach Smith.
Hey yo. Well, I do want to thank everybody here for coming. It's awesome. It's obviously a little overwhelming, but awesome at the same time. I really want to thank all of you. Some of you made some sacrifices to get here, and I certainly appreciate it. And I'm trying to myself wrap my head around this retirement thing. And I'm not quite used to it yet.
You'll get there, Coach.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. But every day you wake up and like, hey Sue, it seems like Saturday. She goes, bro, every day is good from now on. It's gonna seem like Saturday, man.
Monday.
Yeah.
The new favorite day.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, great. Some people have talked to me about. What are you going to do? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm retired. I'm not doing anything. But it seems like a lot of people feel like they need to, volunteer. Hey, this is what you should do, right? I'm like, well, okay. What do you got? So like my daughters, they're like, I get a text from Allison. And it's like a poster of a handyman and all of his responsibilities and all his deal, and this is what you charge for this and that. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be a handyman. Is that what you're saying? And then my other daughter, Kim, she comes right behind her with sending me some text about rover.com. So I'm gonna be a professional dog walker. Holy cow, man. I mean, I love dogs. I love dogs. And the other thing is, people are like, well, what are you going to miss most about coaching? And I've talked to some other coaches, like, well, what are you going to miss most about coaching? And they say, oh, you're probably going to miss, obviously relationships, but the competition, right? You've been coaching and super competitive for a long time, and all of a sudden, nothing, right? So I got that figured out, man. I mowed and edged my lawn. 44 minutes. And I got 2,800 steps in, bro. 2,800 steps. Okay, so, but if anybody else has something to offer, some type of job I can do, other than in San Diego City, that'd be just great. Okay. See, they keep coming. They keep coming. That might not be good, Greg, huh? And by the way, before I keep going here, there was a lot of embellishment out here. I'm just letting you know. There was a lot of embellishment going on, so I'm going to take liberties as well. Some of the staff members that spoke, Jody, really appreciate you. And I was thinking back, he was on my interview committee, but at the time I really, that was a blur. But when I got to COS, I remember our first conversation, and thinking back on it, that conversation, I thought to myself, man, you and this guy got absolutely nothing in common. Man, okay, he's a baseball coach, you're basketball, he's short, you're tall. I'm thin, he's stout. I didn't say portly, he's stout. Valley, I grew up in Southern California anyway. So yeah, I did go away thinking, man, I got nothing in common with this guy. But anyway, so we had our first conversation, and that conversation, Ed, you still here? Right here, brother. It was me, Ed, and Jody. And Ed and I, we swear like drunken sailors, right? We're just, F this, F that, what the F? And here's Jody's like right here, right? And I'm like, and in the middle of the conversation, he's like, what's with all the F-bombs? Right? Too many F-bombs, too many F-bombs. Yeah, hey, dude, what's going on here? And we're like, what are you talking about? What is this? I wouldn't even know it, right? And so...
That was 18 years ago, we still joke about it.
Yes, we do. But, and I didn't know at the time that, Coach Allen, he doesn't swear, and he's very religious, or devout Christian, I should say. And, I'm not so much. Although I did go to Catholic school, and those nuns drove me away. I'm going to tell you. I know some of you have probably had that same experience. Now, Calvin, yeah, there you are, big fella. Brennan's solid, man, as the day is long. He was the AD, as, he mentioned, my second year. And, we ended up having just a super relationship. We had a little more in common. We're both tall, both like basketball. So I knew you were going to be solid, okay? Anyway, I just didn't know how solid. Okay, so we're taking a trip, and this team I'm talking about this year was good. And we went up to Diablo Valley College, and we're playing in their tournament. And the first game, we beat a good team, it was good. Second game, I think Ventura, they were really good. And the third game, we were playing Diablo Valley, the host team. And we ended up beating them. So it was great. We had what we called at that time Championship Sunday. So we're off, obviously, we go into the locker room and walk back towards the lockers. And I'm standing outside of the locker room. And there's a lot of noise going on inside. And here comes Steve Coachimilli, their coach. He's coming down the hallway, and Steve's a little bitter. He goes, hey, can you calm those guys down in there? And I'm like, yeah, sure, let me see what's going on. So I poke my head inside, and here's Calvin banging on the lockers as hard as he can. And I said, Steve, I'm sorry, it's my AD. Anyway, Cal, I think Mitch nicknamed him Biggs, so that's what we call him. He goes by a lot of other, actually Danny called him Mr. Biggs. There you go. Very respectful, Dan. And the problem, I still had a little bit with Calvin is the fact that he's administrator. And, most coaches and administrators, there's just a little contentious relationship, probably because they can fire you, right? So, anyway, Calvin is, not like, just any administrator, but he has his problems.
One of them's retiring, so.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing is, I still struggle with the fact that you're, an administrator, right? You're an AD, and we need to know this, okay? The AD, you go to become a dean, you become the vice president, and now you're president in like 5 years, okay? Now, hey, my daughter Googled it. It's never been done, okay? That's never been done. Now, so either A, you got a lot of dirt on people, or B, like most administrators, shuffling paper, covering your ass a little bit. It's just, we're trying to figure out how that happened.
All of the above.
But anyway, you're not that good looking, man, okay? You got this lurch thing going on, man, but I still love you, man. Hey, it's the whole administrator deal. Stan, you're the only stud in here. I love you, man. All right. Those guys are unbelievable, man. Sorry I won't take too long, but I got it, man. And since I got the mic, I'm the last JV, I'm gonna do it, right? I started as an assistant coach at Cal State Northridge, and Ridge Dogs. How about these guys? 1983, James Head, 85, 86, 87. These guys come up. I love those guys, man. Anyway, they were just a classic group of guys. And I mean it in probably too classic, all right? They went the full nine, right? They bought an old Cadillac, they painted it red, Matador colors, painted Ridge Dogs on the side of it. It was a full deal, right? And we were really a really together team. But the thing was, they were also a bunch of guys that if they smelled any weakness like sharks, they were pounce on you. And it so happened, like Sue and I met Sue at Northridge. She was the head women's gymnastics coach, and obviously I was an assistant coach for basketball. And so they found that out, okay? And they made it their mission to torment us at every opportunity. They put posters in the locker room, did pictures, superimposed my head and her head on different people. TP our house, right? It was bad. So one time, I got wind that they were going to strike. Okay, and I was waiting on the side of the house for them. And I told Sue, I'm going to scare the hell out of these guys. So I'm waiting. I wait for a while. Just waiting. And this, sure enough, it's pitch black out. They come creeping up in their car. I see the car come up. I see it come to the car, and I see the guys. I thought they'd get out. They get out of the car, and as soon as they get to the lawn, I make my move, and I sprint out there, and I'm yelling at them, and they turn, and they're sprinting away, right? But I didn't see the car in front of me. There was this car, and so I had to jump up on top of the hood, and then jumped on the roof, and my feet went right through the ragtop into the car. And there came, oh, Coach, man, you okay? I said, yeah, get the hell out of here, man. So, thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate you. Coach Arce alluded to a story of our trip. Actually, at that time, I was at Eastern Washington, and we wanted to get into a different area. Recruiting, obviously, at that level is very important. It's the biggest thing you can do. And so I knew Mark being from Oklahoma, you know, and he's real bad Okie, okay? But that's why I love him. Anyway, so I talked to Mark and he goes, hey, look, why don't you join me and we'll come on this trip, right? I said, okay. Well, and I hadn't spent much time in the Midwest. Anyway, so I fly in, and like he said, he picks me up in the smallest car I've ever seen in my life. It was like one of those smart cars, man. That's how small they are. It's unbelievable. I'm like, holy shit, I gotta spend this time with RC and it was more 5, it was like 8 or 9 days, by the way. But we drove, like Mark said, just all over, you know, from Oklahoma City to, you know, Cape Girardeau, and not even Missouri. I didn't even know Missouri was close to Oklahoma, but we drove there and back. And then, as he said, you know, we kind of started butting heads. We had great times, but you know, 7 or 8 days with the same guy, man. That whole part of being naked in there was not true either. Just let's clarify that right off the bat. But towards the end of the trip, we were butting heads quite a bit, and it came to a head like 8 or 9 days. It was just raining like buckets outside. I get up and walk downstairs. I knew we were going to head out about 9 to go to the school, and I see RC. He's already in the car, about 20 yards away, right? And I'm over the overhang still, and it's coming down. It's unbelievable, you know, Oklahoma. And I'm like, Mark, come back to the car, I'm over here, man. He goes, come on, man, come on. It's ours, come over, it's raining, come on. I said, no, come on, off, right? So I walk over all the way to the car. All right, we get in, and we're just, you know, we're getting after each other pretty good right there. That's bullshit. You're okay, that's all right. All right, so anyway, so like I said, we've been at each other, and so we take off, and about 2 hours, we don't say a word to each other. And then all of a sudden, we just look at each other, and we just start busting up, and that's our relationship, man. It's been, you know, since, you know, really mid-'80s when Mark was at Cal State Bakersfield, and I was at Northridge at that time, and then we both moved on. Interesting enough, he took the job at West Hills the same year I took the job here at COS back in 2001.
Wild game feed.
That's Ed, by the way. So the next stop was at UC Riverside, and I got to work for a great coach named John Macy. And Mace taught me a lot about coaching relationships and so on. You know, he had a saying, you know, for me that, you know, assistant coaches drive with one headlight. I'm like, what you talking about, man? He goes, you don't see down the road, man. Come on, you gotta see the big picture. So that was one of the big things I learned from him, man, was you gotta see the big picture, okay? But I was just trying as an assistant, you know, we just try to have an impact on the program, right? We're just begging to carve out a small piece so we can have an impact on the program. So I would go into his office, you know, after doing a little, you know, study and research and say, hey, coach, what do you think of this? I got this play. I think it fits our personnel. I think it really, really worked. And he said, you know, always look at me. This is the guy that's, you know, he's in the Hall of Fame, like probably 4 or 5 Hall of Fames. He's big time. He goes, you always say, yeah, we could do that. I said, oh. I walked back out the office. What I forgot, really, that he really said was, we could do that, but when I walked out, he said, but we're not going to. I didn't ever hear that part, but that's just what happened. We would never do anything, you know. And I learned that it has to be the head coach's idea, right, in order to do anything. That's just kind of the what I figured out. And I thought, you know what, I don't think I want to be that guy. But sure enough, I became that guy. I remember Coach Dugan, And Coach Dugan is going to be a fantastic coach. I mean, this guy's a grinder from, the word grinder. I mean, he go in his back of his car, and one day where I got like, what's all that shit? Excuse me, what's all that stuff in your car? I just be swearing at him. That's not like me. What's all this in your car, man? He's like boxes and boxes of file folders that coaches have given him, and he's just like stores all this basketball stuff in his car. I said, man, this guy's, besides a great worker in the houses, he's going to be a great coach. So Chris one day came in the office, and we always talked a lot about basketball, and he's like, hey, coach, I got to play. Okay, we got an OB play. Okay, great. What do you got? What do you call it? He goes, it's called Celtic. I said, well, I hate the Celtics. I'm a Laker fan, born and raised. Okay, strike one. So, so he puts it on the board, and I'm like, I don't think I said, yeah, we could do that. But I said, that's pretty good, right? That's solid, right? Probably. And, but we didn't put it in, right? But about 3 months later, okay, I changed a couple things with it and put it in, right? My idea. And so, showed it. That looks like something. I said, no, OB6. But like I said, Chris, I thank you for all your time, and I've had a lot of great assistants, as it's already been stated, and learned a lot from them. Ed, I learned something from you, okay? I'll share a story. Is one day at practice, is Cleve still here? Do you leave? Okay. Is Cleve's gone? Okay. We had a player here who was central casting in the story, but anyway, and when our first year there, we had some guys that were rough around the edges a little bit. And, but we had to kind of say, not you, Javance, you were still rough around the edges, but I was later. Okay. So, anyway, these two guys, they did something they weren't supposed to do. Okay, I won't share what it was, but they did something they were supposed to do, right? And so Ed, it's like, I got this, coach. I said, okay. Ed says, you guys, this is before practice, you're running 10 miles right now on the track, let's go. I think to myself,
110 degrees.
Yeah, you went, you went up. And so that's, I think, 10 miles, that's 40 laps. But sure enough, what I learned from you, Ed, because they ran out there, and when they came back, I made them practice, okay? That if you're going to make a statement, make it loud and clear. And I thank you for that. Now, Charlie's a different story. What do you got, Charlie? Okay. Okay. We recruited at UCR, we recruited, you probably went to COS 10 years before, recruited one of these players. He was a high school coach. Lincoln High School? Lowell. Okay.
The battery's going dead.
You with Dallas? See Dallas? Hey? Got a bat? You do what I'm saying? Push your papers.
Push your papers, having backup plans, that's an administrator for you.
Saved you.
Hello. So, okay. Okay. All right. Hello. You in? All right, Charlie. So Charlie, unbeknownst to me, that apparently was his name, but he came down after being a high school coach really for only a couple of years, and was, to be honest, he was very green. Okay, in terms of coaching, which is fine. You know what I'm saying? It's our job to be help young coaches and so forth. So he came down and I don't know, one day I walked in the office after about, I don't know how many months, I'm like, bro, are you gonna do something? I mean, recruit scout, watch film, what are you doing? Like he's sitting on the computer, and I swear to God, he looks at me and says, Coach, last night Javance called me, and I brought him some potato wedges. Hey, take that. I said, you're right there, bro. You're right there. Well, let's get to the point where I want to thank, first of all of the players who made this trip. Okay, thank you very much. And there's some things with coaching that, I mean, we as coaches, I think we all know, we all probably think we're really good coaches, but we all know we need players. We need really, really good players to be successful. And all you guys were, and I thank you very much for putting up with me, apparently, in my abuse for all these years. Thank you very much for that. Okay. Also want to thank a couple individuals here. Bill Nelson, where you at, big dog? Where you at? I love Bill Nelson. Bill, obviously, besides being a great friend, has been just so helpful in all of the events that we've run. I think that was acknowledged by Biggs, probably one of the main things he did today. And he, with our fundraising, just all this time you spent with us, and the great supporter. We'll go on the road, go all the games. I mean, he's just a stud. So I thank you, Bill. You've been great. There's a lot of people in here I'd like to thank, okay? But I'm not. So, anyway, a couple other things that are really important to being successful. We out again? Being successful, come on, Big. Is having a great wife and family to be supportive. That's very important to help with success. Okay? And great assistant coaches. I've had all three of those things. And I just want to thank you very much, all of you guys, for being here tonight. Thanks again. If you haven't had a chance, this is our new coach here, Dallas Jensen. If you have a chance to meet him, he's going to do a great job. Please,
Folks, thanks again for coming out. We've got this venue for another couple of hours, so feel free to hang out, come up and talk to Coach Smith, congratulate him, introduce yourself to Coach Jensen, and please drive home safely. Thank you.
I'm